The 23andMe notification arrived on a Tuesday. I almost deleted it. 6 weeks had passed since I spit in the tube and dropped it in the mailbox. I had forgotten about it completely, buried under work emails, grocery lists, and the ordinary chaos of being 23 years old. My coworker Lisa bought me the kit for my birthday. "You're always talking about your grandmother's stories," she said. "Don't you want to know where you actually came from?" I didn't think much of it. I was curious, sure, but I wasn't desperate. I knew who I was. I was Kaisha Williams, daughter of Margaret and David Williams, granddaughter of Eleanor Bennett, who made the best fried chicken in 3 counties, cousin of Marcus Thompson, my best friend since before I could remember. Marcus was 3 years older than me. When I was learning to walk, he was already riding a bike. When I started kindergarten, he was in 2nd grade. But that never mattered. We were still best friends, still cousins, still inseparable. I knew where I came from, or so I thought. The notification sat on my phone for 3 hours before I opened it. I was eating cereal in my pajamas, scrolling mindlessly, avoiding a work presentation I should have been preparing. The little red dot on the 23andMe app annoyed me, so I tapped it. Then my world split in half. The ancestry results were nothing special. 42% West African, 31% European, 27% Indigenous. Typical for a Black woman from the South. I scrolled past the pretty pie charts and colorful maps. That wasn't why I had taken the test. I tapped on DNA relatives. A list loaded, distant cousins, second cousins once removed. People I had never heard of with usernames like Michelty_74 and Jondo_Adel. And then at the very top, a name I knew better than my own. Marcus Thompson, 28% shared. DNA, predicted relationship, half-sibling. I stopped chewing. The spoon was halfway to my mouth. Milk dripped from a Cheerio, landing on my sweatpants. I didn't notice. I couldn't look away from the screen. Half-sibling. Not cousin. Not close family friend. Not the boy I had grown up with. The boy who taught me to ride a bike. The boy who held my hand at our grandmother's funeral. Half-brother. I read the words 10 times. 15 times. They did not change. My hand started shaking, then my whole body. The phone slipped from my fingers and landed on the floor with a crack that I barely heard. I sat there for 45 minutes. The cereal turned to soup. The milk turned warm. The sun moved across the floor. I didn't move. I called Marcus before I called my mother. I don't know why. Maybe because he was the only person in the world who might understand. Maybe because I was too scared to hear my mother's voice. Maybe because, even then, even before I knew the full truth, something in me recognized him as my brother. He answered on the second ring. "Hey, cuz." His voice was light, normal. He had no idea. "Marcus." My voice came out wrong, cracked, too high. "Whoa, you okay? You sound weird." I took a breath. Then another. Then another. "Did you do a 23andMe test?" "Yeah, a few months ago." "Why?" he asked. "Check your results," I said. "What? Why? What's going on?" He asked again. Then I replied, "Marcus, please, just check your results." I heard him shuffling, typing, the silence stretched like a rubber band about to snap. Then, a sound. I had never heard from him before, a sharp intake of breath, like someone had punched him in the stomach. "Keisha." "Yeah, tell me I'm reading this wrong." "I can't. We share 28%. That's not cousin DNA, that's half-sibling." I finished the sentence because he couldn't. The silence that followed was the loudest thing I had ever heard. Then he hung up. I left the house in a rage. I drove to my mother's house like a woman possessed. The tires screeched when I pulled into the driveway. I didn't care. I left the car door open, engine running, purse still on the passenger seat. I stormed up the walkway past the rose bushes she had planted for her 20th wedding anniversary, past the porch swing where my father used to read me bedtime stories. She opened the door before I knocked. She was wearing her yellow apron, the one with the little sunflowers. She had flour on her hands. She had been making biscuits. The smell of butter and yeast drifted out behind her, but her face was already pale. Her eyes were already wet. She knew why I was there. She had been waiting for this day for 23 years. "Come inside," she said. "Don't tell me to come inside." I shoved my phone toward her face. The screen still glowed with Marcus's name. With those words, half-sibling, 28% mom. "He's not my cousin, he's my brother." "Why is my cousin my brother?" She looked at the phone, then at my eyes, then back at the phone. Her hands stopped trembling. She got very still, the way people do when they have been running from something for a very long time and finally decide to stop. "Come inside," she said again, "and I will tell you everything." We sat at the same kitchen table where I had eaten 1,000 meals. The yellow curtains were the same. The chipped coffee mug that my father refused to throw away was still on the counter. Everything looked exactly the same. Nothing would ever be the same again. My mother did not look at me. She looked at her hands. She was tearing a napkin into smaller and smaller pieces, shredding it, destroying something small because she could not undo the big thing. "Your aunt, my sister, couldn't have children," she began. Her voice was quiet, flat, like she was reading a report about someone else's life. "She and your uncle tried for years. Fertility treatments, doctors, prayers. Nothing worked. I said nothing. Meanwhile, I was in college, 19 years old. Stupid, scared. I met a boy who told me he loved me. He didn't. He left when I told him I was pregnant. The napkin was now confetti. I was scared. I was going to drop out. I was going to raise the baby alone, but my sister, she came to me. She said, 'Let me raise him. Let me give him a home. You can be his aunt. He will never want for anything.' Marcus," I whispered. "Marcus." I felt the word like a stone dropping into deep water, ripples spreading outward. Everything I thought I knew about my family, my history, my place in the world, all of it rippling away. "So you gave him away." I thought I was doing the right thing. Then I said to her, "You watched him call Aunt Sarah Mom for 26 years, I know." She said, "You sat across from him at every Sunday dinner, every Christmas, every birthday. You watched him grow up and you never told him the truth." The tears were falling freely down her face now. She did not wipe them away. "I know," she yelled. "I know. And I have regretted it every single day of my life." I stood up, my chair crashed to the floor. She flinched. "You have to tell him," I said. "Keisha," she called, "don't." "No." I was screaming. I didn't know I was screaming until I heard my own voice echo off the kitchen walls. "You don't get to beg. You lied to him his entire life. You lied to me. He's not my cousin, Mom. He's my brother, and he deserves to know the truth." I grabbed my keys. I walked out. She called my name. Once, twice. I did not look back. Marcus didn't speak to me for 3 weeks. I don't blame him. I had dropped a bomb on his entire identity. The woman he called Mum was his aunt. The woman he called aunt was his mother. The cousins he grew up with were actually his siblings. Everything he knew about himself was wrong. I didn't speak to my mother for 2 months. I couldn't. Every time I thought about her face, that yellow apron, the shreds of napkin on the table, I felt something hot and thick rise in my throat. Not just anger, grief. The grief of realizing that the person who gave you life can also be the person who lies to you the longest. My father noticed. Of course he noticed. He sat me down one evening in the living room, in the same armchair he had sat in for 20 years. "You want to tell me what's going on?" he asked. I almost told him. The words were right there. But something stopped me. Something in his eyes. A flicker of something that looked like fear. "Not yet," I said. He nodded slowly. "Okay, when you're ready." He reached over and squeezed my hand. His hand was warm, calloused. The hand of a man who worked double shifts at the factory so I could have new shoes for school. I looked at his hand and wondered if I really knew him either. 3 weeks after the phone call, Marcus showed up at my apartment. He looked terrible. He hadn't slept. That was obvious. His eyes were red. His jaw was covered in patchy stubble. He was holding his phone in one hand. The screen cracked. He had probably thrown it at some point. He didn't say anything. He just stood there. I stepped aside and let him in. We sat on my couch, side by side, not touching, the way we had 1,000 times before. But everything was different now. The air between us was thick with everything we hadn't said. I talked to my mom, he finally said. My aunt. I don't even know what to call her anymore. "What did she say?" I asked. "She said it was true. Every word." He stared at the wall. "She said my biological mother, your mother, thought she was doing the right thing. That she was young. That she wanted me to have a stable home. What did you say to her?" I hung up. He turned to look at me. His eyes were wet. I hung up on my mother, Keisha, the woman who raised me. The woman who changed my diapers and took me to soccer practice and stayed up with me when I had the flu. I hung up on her because I couldn't even look at her. I didn't know what to say. So I said nothing. I just sat there with him. "Does it ever stop hurting?" he asked. "I don't know," I said. "I'll tell you when it does." We sat in silence for a long time. Then Marcus spoke again. His voice was quieter now, almost a whisper. "There's something else, isn't there?" I looked at him. "What do you mean?" "I can see it on your face. You've been holding something back since you walked in." He turned to face me fully. "Just tell me. Whatever it is. I can't get more broken than I already am." I opened my mouth, closed it, opened it again. "The man who raised me," I said. "My dad, David Williams. He's not my biological father." Marcus blinked. "What?" I took a breath. This was harder than telling him about the DNA match. Much harder. My parents, Margaret and David, they were high school sweethearts. They got married young, but it didn't last. They divorced after 1 year. No kids. Just 2 young people who married too fast and fell apart. Marcus listened. He did not interrupt. After the divorce, my mother moved away. She met a man. A brief relationship. She got pregnant with me, your biological father. "Yeah," I replied. The word tasted strange in my mouth. He left before I was born. My mother was alone. "So how did David?" he asked. "That's the part I still don't fully understand." I looked down at my hands. Somehow, he found out she was pregnant. He called her. He started visiting. He brought her groceries. He painted the nursery. He was her ex-husband. He had no reason to help her. I paused, but he came anyway. Marcus said nothing. When I was born, he was in the delivery room. He held me before my biological father ever knew I existed. And then he asked my mother a question. He said, "Let me raise her. Let me be her father." I could feel the tears coming. I did not stop them. She said yes. They didn't remarry right away. That came later when I was a toddler. But David Williams was my dad from the moment I took my first breath. Marcus leaned forward. He signed the birth certificate. He signed it. He gave me his last name. He never once treated me like I wasn't his. So he knew, from the beginning. He knew you weren't his biological daughter, and he chose you anyway. Yes. Marcus sat back. He stared at the ceiling for a long time. The fan spun slowly above us. Then he said, "That's not nothing. What do you mean?" "I mean, We just found out that the families we thought we had were built on secrets, right? Lies, half-truths, people pretending to be things they weren't, right? But you also had a father who chose you. Every single day, he chose you, even when he didn't have to, even when it would have been easier to walk away. I hadn't thought of it that way. He's still your dad, Marcus said. DNA doesn't change that. I looked down at my hands. The hands that had held my father's hand 1,000 times. The hands that had waved goodbye to him at the factory gate. The hands that had signed cards that said, "I love you, Dad." DNA doesn't change that, I repeated. No, Marcus said. It doesn't. We sat in silence again, but this silence was different. It wasn't heavy. It was lighter, like something had been lifted. Then Marcus laughed. It was a broken sound, raw, tear-soaked, but it was laughter. When did you get so wise? I asked. Trauma, he said, and then I was laughing too. Both of us crying and laughing at the same time, messy, ugly, real. We sat on that couch until the sun went down. Two people who had been cousins their whole lives, learning how to be siblings. The months that followed were not easy. My mother went to counseling. She stopped keeping secrets. She told me she was sorry, not once, not twice, but every time she saw me. The words lost their power after a while. Then they started to mean something again. I forgave her slowly. The way you forgive someone you love but cannot fully trust. The way you let someone back into your heart, one small piece at a time. Aunt Sarah, Marcus's mother, the woman who raised him, she and Marcus didn't speak for 2 months. Then they spoke every day for a week. Then they didn't speak for another month. Healing is not a straight line. It is a forest path that doubles back on itself again and again. My father and I had a conversation that I will carry with me forever. We were sitting on the back porch one evening. The crickets were loud. "Do you ever regret it?" I asked him. "Do you ever regret raising me, knowing I wasn't yours?" He was quiet for a long time. I watched his profile in the fading light, the gray in his beard, the lines around his eyes. A man who had worked double shifts so I could have new shoes for school. A man who had no biological reason to love me. He reached over and took my hand. "Kiesha," he said, "I was in the delivery room when you were born. You were purple and screaming and the most beautiful thing I had ever seen. The nurse handed you to me. You stopped crying the second I held you. I was crying now, quietly. I have never once looked at you and seen anything but my daughter," he said, "not for a single second, not for a single breath." I leaned into him. He put his arm around me. "You're my dad," I whispered. "I know," he said, "and you're my daughter. That's the only truth that matters." We sat there in the dark, holding hands. Two people who had chosen each other. One night, about 8 months after everything came crashing down, I woke up at 2 a.m. I couldn't breathe. The weight of everything, the secrets, the lies, the years of not knowing, pressed down on my chest like a stone. I sat up in bed. The room was dark. Blue moonlight filtered through the curtains. My phone was on the nightstand, face down. I picked it up. My thumb hovered over Marcus's name. I pressed call. He answered on the second ring. His voice was thick with sleep. "Keisha, you okay?" "I don't know," I whispered. "I don't know who I am anymore. My whole life is a lie. He didn't tell me I was wrong. He didn't tell me to look on the bright side. He didn't quote a Bible verse or give me advice. He just stayed on the phone with me. For 2 hours, we talked or didn't talk. Sometimes we sat in silence, just breathing, knowing the other person was there. Sometimes I cried. Sometimes he cried. Sometimes we both cried. "I would take a bullet for you," he said before we hung up. "You know that, right?" "I'd take one for you too," I said. "Then we're good." We weren't good. Not yet. But we were getting there. I couldn't sleep after we hung up. I got out of bed and walked to the window. The sky was still dark, but there was a thin line of gold on the horizon. Dawn was coming. I stood there for a long time, watching, waiting. On my nightstand, next to my phone, was a Bible. It had been my grandmother's. The pages were soft and worn. I hadn't opened it in months. Too angry, too tired, too full of questions I didn't think God wanted to answer. But that morning, that fragile, quiet morning, standing in the dark, I picked it up. I opened it to a random page. My eyes landed on a verse. I had read it before, years ago, at my grandmother's funeral. But that morning, it looked different. Though my father and mother forsake me, the Lord will receive me. Psalm 27, verse 10. I read it again and again. I thought about my mother, the secrets she had kept, the years she had watched Marcus call someone else mom, the weight she had carried alone. I thought about my biological father, the stranger who didn't know I existed, the man who might never know my name. I thought about Marcus, my brother, my cousin, my friend, the person who had stayed on the phone with me at 2 a.m. And I thought about my father, David Williams, the man who chose me, the man who looked at a child who wasn't his blood and said, "She is mine." I closed the Bible. I didn't pray out loud. I just stood there, holding it against my chest, watching the sunrise. I wasn't healed. I wasn't whole. I still had questions. I was still angry sometimes. I still cried in the car when certain songs came on. But I was still here, and so was Marcus, and so was my father, and so, in the quiet way that God works, slowly, gently, without fanfare, was something that felt a little bit like hope. Subscribe for more true confession stories.